would like to welcome you all from the boardrooms. I know the transactions have been running and you wanted to push this to the wire and get the deal done. May I also welcome those of us who've been tracking events via social media and our website. Let me say welcome to the closing ceremony, and I know you can't wait to hear the results. This session is being streamed live on Arise TV, CNBC Africa, and Africa 24, our website, africainvestmentforum.com, and of course on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We have journalists from more than 40 media organizations covering this event and who will be taking part in a virtual press conference soon after the announcement. And may I say thank you again for your patience. My name is Solomon Mugera, and I'm your host for this evening. Just to let you know that I had a chance to peep into some of the boardrooms this afternoon and was blown away by the elaborate pitch presentations. But of course, I want to reserve the best for our chairman of the Africa Investment Forum and the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akiumi Adeshina, who is going to reveal the results of the Africa Investment Forum 2021 boardroom sessions. Mr. President, welcome.
Thank you very much, Director of Communications, Solomon Mugera. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are, good day. Welcome to the closing ceremony of the Africa Investment Forum Virtual Investment Boardrooms 2021. Now, it's been 3 days of hectic engagements, discussions, analysis, assessments, as project sponsors, investors, with the government leaders, financial institutions all reviewed deals. Deals to support transformative projects that will accelerate Africa's development. Infrastructure was a highlight across all the boardrooms. Deals to develop world-class transport corridors linking West Africa. Deals to connect East African countries with railways. Deals to expand access to digital infrastructure, including broadband. Of course, feeding Africa was top on the agenda. Deals to boost food production and develop competitive agricultural value chains. Deals for the manufacturing of fertilizers in Africa. Of course, the energy sector was prioritized. Deals to expand renewable energy sources from biogas, geothermal, and hydropower. Deals to develop liquefied natural gas infrastructure to provide access to energy. Deals for modular refineries to supply energy. Africa's film and creative industries were showcased to investors. They were really excited. Deals on Film Academy to position Africa's film globally. Deals to establish textile parks to promote Africa's cotton, textile, and garments industry. Deals for Africa to tell its own stories and showcase its creativity across the world. Adding value to Africa's huge natural resources was on the agenda. It was prioritized. Deals for equity funds to boost Africa's mining industry. Oh yes, we're just all recovering from the COVID era. The health of Africa's population was prioritized. Deals to build world-class health infrastructure, including oncology and a medical city. Deals on digital healthcare delivery to deliver healthcare in very remote areas. And hubs to manufacture vaccines. Oh yes, we had a lot more. Deals on climate finance to expand access to green shares for institutional investors. Deals to fund and boost affordable housing right here in Abidjan for 500,000 people. Deals to boost Africa's capital markets, especially for local currency finance. Deals to harness Africa's rich minerals and metals. Of course, deals to power global electric vehicle industry right from Africa with lithium ion. It's all been energetic and very dynamic. I took time to visit the boardrooms, and I saw more amazing deals. Of course, what gets more amazing than businesses of women? From large women-owned businesses to smaller and budding women-owned businesses, they were all impressive. Miss Howard Bello, the CEO of Madame Coquette, who makes incredible leather bags, said it all. She said, I started what seemed like impossible at the time, and I just stuck with it. That's the spirit, Howard. Stick with it. Go, women businesses, go. The African Development Bank's flagship program to finance women, African Finance, we call it Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, or AFAWA, is delivering financing for women. In 2021, the African Development Bank provided $450 million in support of women businesses in Africa. And this year, the bank expects to provide $500 million in support of women-owned businesses. Now, we will remove obstacles in the ways of businesses of women, because women businesses should never remain small. And that is why I'm very pleased to announce today that the African Development Bank will also be establishing a $1 million AFAWA Women's Advisory Facility to further support women-led businesses with advisory services. That's because I really genuinely believe we must not despise the times of small beginnings. Women-led businesses must grow and dominate across Africa, because when women win, Africa wins. I felt all across the boardrooms passion and commitment to Africa. I felt strong investment interests, deals, and deals. The Africa Investment Forum is all about deals. In 72 hours, you all connected. You struck deals and you created success. Now, it gives me great pleasure to announce our collective success. The investment boardrooms secured over $32.8 billion in investment commitments to Africa. Wow, that is simply incredible for Africa. Yes, Africa is bankable. Congratulations. The biggest deal for the boardroom is the $15.6 billion deal for the Lagos-Abidjan highway corridor. The 4 to 6 lane highway corridor will connect Lagos, Cotonou, Lomé, Accra, and Abidjan. It will support 75% of the trade in the West Africa region. The project will impact on the lives of over 500 million people. It will reduce transport costs by 48%. It will increase intra-regional trade volume by 15 to 25%. Yes, it will connect landlocked countries to port cities. We are absolutely delighted to all work together with the Economic Commission for West African States, ECOWAS, to make this happen as we connect the West Africa region. That is exactly what the Africa Investment Forum is. It's a connector, connecting project sponsors, investors, financiers, connecting the public and the private sectors, connecting Africa to investors from around the world. Investments are rising again in Africa, and that gets me really excited as president of the African Development Bank, and I'm sure it gets all my partner institutions excited as well. COVID-19 slowed us down, but it never did deter our determination. We turned the crisis into an opportunity. I wish to thank all the project sponsors for putting up excellent projects. A special thanks goes to you, our 300 plus investors that joined us from around the world. Now, regardless of the time of day, your energy remains strong. A great thank you to all the chairs and moderators of all the boardrooms. Thank you to the interpreters, the IT teams from the African Development Bank, who work with IT teams of all of our partner institutions. They all work so hard to make sure we can hold these investment boardrooms virtually. And of course, a big thank you to all of our partners for the Africa Investment Forum, the Development Bank of South Africa, the Africa Export-Import Bank, the Trade and Development Bank, Africa 50, Africa Finance Corporation, the Islamic Development Bank, and the European Investment Bank. And a very special thank you to all the teams of the African Development Bank, our boards of directors, the senior vice president, the vice presidents, the senior management and staff for your incredible work and dedication. I'd like to applaud the senior director of the Africa Investment Forum, Mrs. Chinelo Anohu Amazu, Onike Nicole, Hora, ABS Soka, and your staff and consultants at the Africa Investment Forum for their incredible tenacity and excellent work. I'm proud of you all. Together with all of you joining us from around the world, we did it together again. Thank you to all the media houses and the journalists that have joined us from around the world. I am so grateful because you helped us to publicize the event. Now, help write the success stories from the boardrooms. The Africa Investment Forum virtual investment boardrooms delivered for Africa. Now, let's turn our eyes to the Africa Investment Forum 2022 Market Days, to be held physically in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, from the 2nd to the 4th of November, 2022. I look forward to welcoming you there. As we build up to that event, keep the deals coming. Until then, so long. Thank you all very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that inspiring speech in which you've now revealed what exactly was happening over the past 3 days. In 72 hours, you have told us, Mr. President, 32.8 billion US dollars and counting. Those are the deals that have been struck in 72 hours. You've told us about that mega one that will connect Abidjan to Lagos, a massive highway connecting Abidjan to Lagos, going via Accra, Lomé, and Cotonou. The size, the range, and the potential to transform African economies is enormous. Ladies and gentlemen, we want now to transition to a press conference, and I know members of the press, you've got quite a number of questions to ask. Of course, we've got Dr. Adeshina with us. He'll be joined by representatives and leaders from the 7 other founding partners. So let me first introduce to you our members of the panel, starting with the chairman of the Africa Investment Forum, who is also the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akiumi Adeshina, who made the announcement. We've got Elaine Ebobise, the chief executive officer of Africa 50. We've got Mr. Admasu Tedese, president emeritus and group managing director of the Trade and Development Bank. We've got Samaila Zubairu, president and chief executive officer of the Africa Finance Corporation. We've got Mr. Ambrose Fayole, vice president of the European Investment Bank. We've got Mr. Mohan Vivekanandan, who is the group executive, client coverage, Development Bank of Southern Africa. We've got Denise Denia, the executive vice president for finance, administration, and banking services of the Africa Export and Import Bank, that's Afrexim Bank, with us. And also we have the Senior Director of the Africa Investment Forum, Chinalu Ano. So let me come to you first, Dr. Deshina. The past 72 hours, you've just been expressing excitement over what the result was. Just sum up for us what it has meant to you.
Well, first is, let me say that first, I'm very grateful for everybody for staying around this late around the world. And thank you to all our partners that are here. What it means really for me is that, we are really, Africa is a very bankable continent. We've gone through hard times, difficult times like everybody else in the world because of the COVID-19 situation. But here we are, investments, we actually lost quite a lot of investments at that time. But here we are on the upside, on a rebound. So Africa is rebounding. I think for me, the key things is renewed confidence, renewed optimism, is resilience of Africa's economies. And that also that the economic fundamentals of Africa continues to be strong. And that the projects, that you see us actually discussing here, $32.8 billion, it shows that investors actually have a lot of confidence in Africa's resilience and economic recovery. So if there's anything really for me, it's that Africa is back for investments.
Thank you, Dr. Deshina, for that. Africa is back, it's rebounding. Elene Bobise from Africa 50, you're big on infrastructure. What's your take?
Well, thank you, Solomon, and thank you, President Deshina, my chairman, and to the Africa Investment Forum team for putting together a very impressive event once again. What we've really noticed is that there were real deals that were transacted during this forum. Exciting deals, we've seen some excitement. Even if it was not in person, we'll do that in November. There was a lot of excitement online. We ourselves presented a deal, the Kigali Innovation City deal, during this marketplace. The representatives of the government of Rwanda were there, the CEO of Badea and other financial institutions, and a lot of investors. We could see that people are interested in looking at bankable deals on the continent. But beyond that, once again, this forum has proven that the Africa Investment Forum is a critical platform to bring us together and to work collaboratively to deliver for Africa. Once again, we were able to demonstrate that, and then we're very proud at Africa 50 to be one of the founding partners because this is a fantastic platform, a fantastic instrument, and we hope that it will continue to grow and to demonstrate that Africa, like my president, my chairman said, Africa is open for business.
Thank you so much for that, Bobise. Thank you so much, Mr. Bobise, for that. Let me come to you, Mohan Vivekanandan. Looking at the continent and the confidence levels we're being told they're rising, and the fact that you could actually do this virtually, what does it mean to you?
Yes, certainly for the Development Bank of Southern Africa, based here in Johannesburg, to be able to dial in and participate in an event like this, it's quite important. I think we understand that as a continent and as a region, we need investment-led growth. And the critical element is a lot of the capital that we need is actually in our continent, and it's looking for outlets. It's looking for projects where they can be deployed. And the AIF is a perfect example of that, of the number of projects across a variety of different sectors that we can do that in. As the DBSA, our focus is infrastructure. We invest about $1 billion a year in the sectors. And we're seeing investments not just in energy and transport, which are traditional, but in other sectors, healthcare as an example, which is obviously crucial coming out of what we're seeing with the COVID crisis, in education, in housing as well, and certainly in the ICT sector. So there's a lot of opportunities coming through. We're excited by it, and we like to deploy our own capital, but more importantly, to create opportunities for our partners to be able to participate in the opportunities that are there in the continent. That's very encouraging for us.
Mohan, thank you so much for that. And the point you're making there, when we talk about confidence rising in Africa, we're saying the capital we are looking for is right here in Africa. That's a real strong testimony. Let's go to Ambrose Fayole from the European Bank. Looking at those 72 hours, 32.8 billion US dollars worth of deals. What does that mean to you?
Well, I am impressed, and thank you, Solomon, for the introduction. I'm impressed, but like I would join President Adesina and my friend Alain to say this is not a surprise, because we know that there are reasons for optimism, and we know that there are indeed bankable projects in Africa. And let me just say a few words on that. As Vice President of the European Investment Bank, the Bank of the European Union, it is really a pleasure to be invited here. This week's timely event has been important to identify and accelerate investment projects, and we are very pleased to have actually contributed to, as we are a funding partner, as you say, for the forum. We are very pleased that we have actually our experts in techniques, in corporate finance, in project finance, in public sector and environmental experts. They have participated in more than 15 virtual boardroom discussions. And actually, we have also chaired one discussion on a biomass to energy project, PF project in Côte d'Ivoire. And we would like to thank very much the teams that have worked so hard for making this event possible. It is a great success. We greatly value the open and genuine discussions in all sessions and the insight provided by the sponsor, the moderators, the investors. And we look forward to following up on supporting the number of specific projects that have been identified by the colleagues during these sessions. Let me end by stressing one point. EIB, through its new arm, EIB Global, that was launched 2 months ago, wants to do more investment projects in Africa, more impact and more presence in the ground. And with you, EIB Global will strengthen engagement, enhance partnership, and unlock new investment across Africa. And we are very pleased to do that because we share very much the optimism that I heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ambrose. You remind me of what one US congressman recently said when they visited the African Development Bank headquarters here in Abidjan, and they had a very productive meeting with the President, Dr. Deshina here. And he said, if you're not investing in Africa, particularly in Africa's youth, you're not investing in the future. Okay, let me bring in here Dennis Denya from the Africa Export and Import Bank, African Bank. Mr. Denya, when you had that big project, the Abidjan to Lagos project, connecting Africa, the amount of trade, I know you must have been feeling extremely excited about that. Talk to us about that.
So thank you very much, Solomon. Let me begin by thanking President Adesina for chairing the Africa Investment Forum and for the team for organizing this well-coordinated forum. Clearly, the forum affords investors and financiers to work on projects that are urgent for our continent. So that highway you spoke about is very, very critical for us because we're a trade finance bank. Our teams actually participated in 9 boardroom sessions during these past 72 hours. And we looked at projects totaling 9.6 billion, which we think we will pursue going forward. And this covered sectors such as energy, transport, logistics, healthcare, and creative economy, which sectors are going to drive the continent's post-COVID-19 pandemic economic recovery. So we are particularly excited that the partners worked well together. We are also excited by the fact that government ministers, policymakers participated because you need the public sector and the private sector to work together to deliver on these projects.
Thank you so much for that, Denya. Very, very great comments there. Let me bring in now Mr. Admasu Tadesse. 72 hours. The result is 32.8 billion US dollars and counting. What's your biggest takeaway?
Well, I think in a nutshell, the takeaway is that the momentum has come back. The continent has been growing quite well now since the turn of the millennium. We just had an interruption for a couple of years. And so now it's quite evident that the rebound has happened. Of course, we need to sustain it by ensuring that these key projects start to happen. So we, of course, have been active in the boardrooms as well. Very pleased to see various partners coming through to put the shoulder to the wheel, not just generic projects or conventional projects, but also innovations, new instruments. One of the things that we worked on was a green share instrument, which will also enable the climate finance agenda to get more traction as well. But in short, I think this is a premier event for the continent. I think this really brings everybody who's serious on investment in Africa together in a way that we don't see anywhere else. And it's a very important way to get everybody to reconnect. And so we're very happy that the energy is back and the prospects looking very good ahead.
Tadesse, thank you so much for that. And I think we are waiting for Samaila Zubairo from the Africa Finance Corporation. I seem not to see you on the list here. If you can, please, we need to hear from you. Unless if my screen is deceptive, it doesn't give me a whole clear picture of who is on. Can you hear me if you're on, Zubairo? Okay, we'll come back to you if we've got somebody from the Africa Finance Corporation. We'll definitely want to hear from you. In the meantime, I would like to call upon members of the press. I know some of you have already sent in your questions. I can see there's a hand that has been up for quite some time. Sarah Javin. Sarah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
State your organization and then you put your question.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Sarah Jarvin. I'm a journalist with DAVEX. I'm wondering if I can please have more details on the vaccine manufacturing deals. Thank you.
Okay, on manufacturing deals, let's get some more questions, then we can get the panel to respond. Let me see. Any hands from members of the media? We've got Limo Taboy. Limo Taboy, you did send us a question. Are you on the line, Limo? I can see Limo is on the line. Hi, Limo.
Good evening.
Hi, yes, go on.
My question is, congratulations on the deals. Will the list of completed deals be shared? And will the list of unconcluded deals also be shared, which will be discussed later in the year in Abidjan? Thank you.
Okay, that's an easy one. Yes, we will definitely be giving details. If you visit our website as well, we will definitely, if you visit that website, we'll definitely be updating things there if you can do that. On your first question, the first question we had, Dr. Deshna, would you like to tackle Sarah's question?
On the health side, the investments were quite ranged. So let me actually broaden that question to talk about the whole spectrum of the kind of things that we find on the health side. First is, you had in Accra, what's called an Accra Medical City that will actually build world-class medical infrastructure that is there, which is very, very important. You have a big fund for about $100 million, which is in South Africa, which is looking at investing in providing health access for a lot of people, especially for the low-income households. You have another fund, which is a telemedicine facility, which is called Mobi Health, which is looking into how to provide use digital technology to provide access to health all around. Now, we also have two platforms in terms of manufacturing of pharmaceutical products. There was one that is based in West Africa that is like a pharmapolis, which is a massive area that is looking into having the infrastructure to support pharmaceutical production. There's another one also in Kenya, which is a small company that is going into vaccines production. That was also part of that, and I'm sure the senior director will give you the details on that. All in all, what this basically suggests to me that investments are ramping up with regard to health infrastructure in Africa. Let me add that the African Development Bank, just our board of directors, just about a couple of weeks ago, approved the bank's strategy for investing in quality health infrastructure for Africa that will cover primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, and tertiary healthcare. But also we have an action plan that we are doing, and the vice president is on this call, Vice President Quenio, which we are doing with regard to building Africa's pharmaceutical industry, but also vaccines manufacturing capacity in different places. And as we speak, the African Development Bank is actually also working to invest in a number of the new mRNA vaccines platforms that are in Africa. So let me just stop there. Also say that I think you're seeing quite a slew of investments coming up with regard to health. And I'll just say this, just to close on that, to say that I really believe that if there's a lesson that we have learned out of this COVID-19 situation, is that Africa will no longer be dependent on others. And what you find with the investors coming around to Africa to say, for pharmaceuticals, yes, for vaccines production, yes, and also quality healthcare infrastructure. We have to look at all things together, because to assure the health of the population, we need what I call a health defense system that health defense system that looks at quality health infrastructure, that looks at pharmaceutical industrial development, but also that looks at the case of vaccines production. And we are investing in all, and I think you find quite a range of those on this investment platform today.
Thank you, Dr. Deshina, for that response. I've got a question here, and I would call upon Mr. Tadesse to fill this one. How has foreign investment...
Well, you may just a second, you may want Chinelo to say a bit about the particular vaccines manufacturing company. I think there was something in Kenya or something like that. That's on that. Chinelo.
Yeah, SD Chinelo, please.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, we have a Dawa manufacturing vaccine for Kenya, and there's been a lot of interest, both domestic interest and interest across with the USTD partners. This is currently going some changes, and like Solomon mentioned earlier, if you can wait on our website, it will be constantly updated. We're also aware of efforts with the Kenyan government to bring a big Moderna also in Kenya. And we're also curating currently a vaccine training establishment, first of all in Ghana and other parts of Africa, like President Adesina said, to very clearly support the infrastructure across spectrum of vaccine manufacturing, not just to build the plants, but also to ensure that the training required to man those facilities are given to the continent. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chinelo. And if there are any questions around health, we'll definitely come back to that topic. I'll be coming to some of the journalists on the line, like Lukwame Lukman from Koulibaly from the Reuters, just after Mr. Tadesse fields this question about foreign investment. How is foreign investment being encouraged in Africa? This is a question from Angel Naburi of The Guardian in Tanzania. Mr. Tadesse.
Well, I think it's an important question because investment has to be attracted. And it's not just the underlying sector involved, but of course it's the overall investment climate. It involves regulation, but it's also the infrastructure that actually underpins a lot of the real economies that are the subjects of investment. So, I mean, just since Tanzania is the destination where the journalist is from, the amazing standard gauge railways, thousands of kilometers of rail that's going to be running with electricity, which is almost clean energy because it's not using heavy fuel oils. that's going to interconnect and open up the hinterlands in the DRC, in Uganda, and Rwanda. These are all landlocked countries. That's just one example. But we're seeing a lot of interest in sectors that have had a boost with the developments around the global economy. Resources are getting a very strong, attraction. We're seeing also energy projects coming back. They've always been very strong on the horizon. But transport, broadly speaking, and agriculture as an adaptive part of climate change, climate finance, is also getting a lot of interest. But I think the continent with the AFCFTA has also given a stimulus to foreign investors, because they now know that they're looking at a much bigger marketplace. It's not just going to be investing in one or two countries.
Thank you so much for that. And Lukman Koulibaly, are you on the line? If you're on the line, can you put your question, please? Okay. If not, we'll go to Jimo Babatunde. Jimo, can you hear me? If you can give Jimo the platform to ask his question, I'll appreciate Jimo.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Congratulations on this African Investment Forum. I just want to know from Mr. Dennis on the Abidjan Lagos project. I want him to tell us more on the project. What level is the project now? And if he has information when the project will be delivered. Thank you.
Okay, I think he has heard you, Mr. Daniel.
Yes, I think the project is, Dr. Adesina indicated, is one of the projects that is going to be financed in future. Afreximbank is not involved in the financing, but what Solomon was talking about are the opportunities that will arise, following the establishment of this corridor. If you look at opportunities in terms of provision of trade finance, financing, logistics companies, and any trade that the infrastructure will carry, that's where Afreximbank will get involved in. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Jimo, for your question. There is Victor. Victor Kiprop. I think Victor.
Can I just add to that point that Jimo was raising? The African Development Bank provided, a total of $43 million for the project preparation facility for the feasibility study for this, together with the European Union Commission. And so the feasibility study was actually presented. And the analysis was also done in terms of the financials for this project, which was actually presented, $15.6 billion. And it generated an enormous amount of interest from everybody across the board. As I said, this is a very, very profitable project. It will be run as a PPP project. It will be toll highway, Jimo, all the way from 4 to 6 lanes. That's going to be done. And it will really transform this place completely. So it's a project that will go for about, about 4 or 5 years, maybe to completion. I expect in about maybe 6 years completion. But it's a massive thing. It's well over 1,000, almost 1,200 kilometers of 4 to 6 lane highways.
That's a massive one. It's something to look forward to. It will totally change the face of this region. Let's bring in Taiwo Adeniji. Thank you so much for joining. You're representing, of course, Mr. Zubeiru of the Africa Finance Corporation. I'm glad you are able to join. Hi, Taiwo.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. We had at least a brief comments from the CEOs and the leaders of the other founding partners. And it's important to hear from you what you've made of the 72 hours that have yielded more than $32 billion in deals. What's your take?
Well, the way we see it as one of the founding partners, we do believe that the Africa Investment Forum is a very worthy addition to the efforts at meeting the infrastructure deficit in Africa. Unfortunately, of course, because of COVID, etc., we have had to do virtual conferences. But even then, the last 3 days has shown that even in very difficult circumstances, a lot can still be achieved. The AFC has been supportive of this process as facilitators, as board chairs, and we have seen the breadth of the project that were presented over the last 3 days. Personally, people were involved in projects totaling close to $10 billion in different sectors, in energy, in power, in road infrastructure, etc. And I myself chaired one of the sessions that was trying to develop power in the Democratic Republic of Congo using the method in the Kivu Lake. That, for example, is a project that will not only meet the developmental objectives of the region in terms of providing power, but also solve a potentially catastrophic environmental problem. So so we are very happy to be involved, to be one of the founding partners. We have seen projects that we would like to take forward internally. And we think that the last 3 days has meant that a lot of these projects are much closer to reaching financial close than they were, say, 1 week ago. And that is something that all the partners of the AI can be very proud of.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Adeniji. I've got 2 hands here from Lukman Koulibaly and Victor Kiprop. I will take your questions in a successive way. Lukman first.
J'ai cru entendre que l'Afrique était de nouveau bankable.
Africa is bankable again, as was said by the chairman, following COVID-19. What sectors are attracting more investment, please?
Okay, what sectors are attracting more investment? Please, let me swing this to Mr. Elene Bobise.
Absolutely, Solomon. I may also respond in French if that's what you would propose. In any event, I can do that in English.
Yes, please. You can do that in both.
So I think we are seeing indeed a lot of interest from the private sectors in a number of sectors. I would argue that the power sector remains a sector which is quite attractive in terms of investment in power sectors, including, and this is quite encouraging, renewables. There's a lot of interest in the renewables project that we see. We also see a lot of interest in the telecom sector. And this is quite important because the pandemic has demonstrated that increasing the penetration rate of broadband, enabling people to be able to work remotely is quite important. So we need to actually digitize African economies quite a bit. So we see those investment opportunities and also interest from the private sector. At Africa 50, we have actually made 2 investments recently in the ICT space, just demonstrating that this sector is quite active. We also see investment in the midstream gas. I think our President Adesina, our chairman, have been advocating for gas to be part of the energy mix in Africa. While we are going towards net zero, we need to make sure that we have gas, which is totally part of the energy mix. So we see some interest in the gas infrastructure to make sure that we can bring the molecules to the demand centers. So we see a number of sectors which are attractive. Interestingly, also there is a lot of I would say interest, which hopefully will materialize into real investment opportunities in some of the emerging social sectors like healthcare. We're starting to see health infrastructure becoming really a sector that a lot of investors are inquiring what's going on in the sector. We hope that this will translate into real actual investments on the ground. And that's why I'm so pleased that the African Investment Forum and many investment opportunities in the health sector, because we need to make sure that we speed up the implementation of those investments so that it can actually happen, so that success will actually generate more success. So this is in a nutshell some of the things that we are seeing. Of course, I can say a lot more, but in the interest of time, I will stop here if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you've just reinforced one of the points that Dr. Deshina said earlier on about the need to build a health defense system for Africa. You cannot outsource the health of 1.4 billion people to the benevolence of others. That statement, I will normally find it extremely powerful. Let's bring in here Victor Kiprop from the BBC. Victor, your question, please.
Thank you, Solomon. Of course, the president has already elaborated part of my question on the Lagos-Abidjan highway, but I was just wanted to know, in the context of the African continental free trade area, of course, something big, African countries opening up their borders, and we've been following this Abidjan-Lagos highway for quite some time now. For us to see a highway connecting about 5 countries, 5 capitals, almost taking off now. What does this mean for Africa, for West Africa, in the context of trade at this very moment? And then also, just before you respond, Solomon, I also wanted to know how much interest from this East African side, the Burundi-Rwanda railway attracted. I know you said you'd share the deals later. Thanks.
All right. So what I'll do is I will let Dr. Deshina tackle one of the questions, and the other one, we've got Vice President Solomon Quaina on the line. If you look at the chat box, he's been explaining away things to do with that highway. So what I'll do is VP Quaina, if you can tackle that, then I'll go back to Dr. Deshina to speak about interest from East Africa. VP Quaina.
Thank you very much, Solomon. President Adeshina actually captured it. I just provided the specific details. In addition to the corridor treaty being signed, a supranational authority, Alcoma, has been established. And this supranational authority is going to be the authority that manages the entire 1,023 kilometers of road. But more importantly, they are not looking at just really the road project. And in fact, President Adeshina describes it really as an investment generator. It's about an economic corridor. There's going to be development along the corridor. There'll be new town development along the corridor. There will be hotels. There will be land development, etc. But definitely, this project development, which was supported by both the EU and also the African Development Bank, as Dr. Adeshina said, with $43 million, has led to the economic, the ECOWAS Commission going through best practice process to actually prepare the project. And this is what excited, the 12 to 14 investors who were present. And we had a combination of investors, private, public, very interested in following this project. Even the private sector group, like I said, the ECOWAS Commission is going to be performing, a private sector participation analysis towards the end of the year. The private sector group has agreed to come as a forum, to actually engage with the ECOWAS Commission through different junctures on that study. So definitely in our minds, this project is a reality. Let's keep in mind that construction period is 6 years, so we're not going to see, the 6-lane highways tomorrow, but definitely this time it's on course. Thank you.
Thank you. But at least they'll be able to see the construction beginning and all those things. VP Quaina, thank you so much for this. Dr. Deshina, I'm coming back to you because of this thing. You've said 32.8 billion worth of deals, and we are hearing the mega one in West Africa. And Victor says, what about us? Anything from East Africa? Dr. Deshina.
Of course, lots of things all across the various regions. Victor, we were so tremendously excited about maybe, let me say the most important one for these boardrooms is the railway connection that is going to be connecting Tanzania all the way to Burundi, then from Burundi all the way to DRC Congo, where you have the mines in in Burundi, but also the mines in Eastern Congo. That's a massive corridor that you're looking at in terms of railway. But also there's another component of it, which will connect Rwanda to Tanzania and therefore give Rwanda the access to the port of Dar. This is all part of what we were just saying just now about the whole issue of regional integration and also accelerating the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Because you got to drive down the cost of moving things. When you're moving things, you want to move things not by trucks, you want to move it really by rail. And so what you're beginning to see is the importance of rail investments that are actually happening now in Africa. So that whole investment is about $3.6 or so billion, and very, very strong interest by the government of Tanzania, the ministers, the government of Burundi, and also the government of DRC Congo. Now that on that side is all public investments. But on the side from linking Kigali all the way for Rwanda all to Tanzania, that's going to be done by PPP, public-private partnership arrangement. So you're beginning to see that. And I was particularly also excited about the fact that you have, companies like Telo DB, the Deutsche Bank in Germany all showing interest in this area of investing in railway. But of course, the CEO of Africa 50, Alain de Bobesse, is there. And Africa 50 is spearheading a really terrific effort as well, road and rail that will link DRC Congo itself to Congo Brazzaville. And that's about a $400 million investment that we actually started with the last Africa Investment Forum, for which work is already on the way on that. So nobody's left out at all. I think I cannot wait to see that railway. Just the amount of political will and support for that is just tremendous.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Bobby, do you want to say something briefly before I go to Mr. Vivekanandan?
Well, my President Adesina, my chairman, already mentioned the project. It's a fantastic project linking Brazzaville and Kinshasa. This is a project that has been dreamt for many years, but now it's happening, and it's happening with the support of the two countries, but also the support of the African Development Bank, led by President Adesina and also VP Solomon Queno and their teams. So we are making great moves, and we want to start construction as soon as possible.
Thank you so much for that. I've got a question from Risto from La Tribune Afrique. But first of all, hold on there, Risto, because we've got a question here from, again, it came from Tanzania. And I would like you, Mohan, to fill this one. The importance of renewable energy, climate resilience, adaptation, mitigation, and technology. How is Africa embracing this?
Obviously, energy is a critical element, and beyond energy, more generally, climate-resistant investments in infrastructure, housing are also crucial. What we're seeing is certainly in South Africa, there's been a big focus on generating additional power, and a lot of that has been as we over time shut down the coal-fired power stations in the country. We see the need for new renewable energy to come through. Already, the country has put in over 6,000 megawatts of renewable energy, which is in the range of about $15 billion of capital expenditure. And there's a program that the government has set up to invest something in the range of 2,600 megawatts every other year for at least the next 10 years, purely from renewable energy. So, it's an example of the focus that we have. But it goes beyond just energy. It goes into every sector, thinking about making it climate resilient. As an example, in the housing, in all types of buildings that we finance, hospitals, student accommodation, there's also a focus on aligning them to various green building principles as well, because it makes both environmental and economic sense to do that. So that's another example of the types of investments that we're promoting as the DBSA, but are also being adopted throughout the continent as well. And also, I think one of the next big pushes is going to be to move towards electric mobility as well. I mean, certainly with the high prices of oil, as a continent, we're behind the level of adoption in other parts of the world, but we see significant opportunities there as well. And that's something that we're going to have to push forward on, looking forward.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Vivekanand. And as you are saying, when people are trying to recover, countries are trying to recover from COVID-19, they say they want to build back better. But again, there's the green growth where we want to build forward smarter. Thank you so much for that. I've got a question from Risto. Risto from the La Tribune. Are you there, Risto? Okay, Risto, are you there? If not,
I think he put this question on the chat box. If you look at it.
Let's see. So Risto's question, okay, let me see. It's not coming through, but I will read one from. We just received one from Boson Omafaye of Arise News, who says, what were the key issues or challenges that were highlighted by investors and project managers during the 3-day boardroom deals? I think this is for SD.
Yeah, I want to take that question from Risto because I can see it here, and I don't know, maybe you can see it on yours. I can read it for, in the current global context, could the investments mobilized during these 72 hours be used in the short term to alleviate the international crisis linked to the food supply in Africa? That's the question that he raised. Maybe you're not seeing it from there.
I've seen it now. You're very right.
Yeah. Well, the first and foremost is that, just let me say that the situation that we are facing in Africa today with regard to food security, it's just been heightened by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Many of the countries in Africa depend on Russia and also for Ukraine for the supply of wheat and of course for the supply of maize, sunflower oil, soybeans, and so on. Just take countries like Egypt. Egypt alone accounts for 50% of all of the imports from those two countries. East African countries, where accounts for probably about wheat supply from those two countries, Ukraine and Russia, accounts for 90%, over 90% of the wheat supply to East African countries. And if you look at the situation with cereals in East African countries, both Russia and Ukraine accounts for 1/3 of the total amount of cereal supplied there. So, I mean, Solomon, we are from Kenya. Sorry. What you have there is the situation with food crisis that's going to get heightened because of that. And so what we are trying to do is to make sure that we are investing a lot in agriculture. Excuse me, I just choke on my water here. And so some of the projects that you see inside of the boardrooms were largely on agriculture to respond to a lot of these things, But before I say that, let me say that the bank, African Development Bank, sees this increase in prices of wheat, price of maize, price of soybeans as potentially going to worsen food security and therefore raise inflation in Africa. Therefore, Africa must respond, and we have put together a plan. We're putting together an emergency plan that will support Africa to be able to respond very strongly to avert a potential food crisis, but also the inflationary pressure that these pass-through effects will have on African countries. Now, if you look at it, we are putting together a $1 billion facility as an emergency response facility that will cover wheat, that will cover rice, that will cover maize, that will cover soybeans, and so on. We're discussing that with our partners, and also we'll be discussing that with our board of directors before we can announce it formally about the details of that. But let me say that for the boardrooms for this session, we had a lot of interest in agriculture. So if you take, for example, Angola, there is a Mark Bell Dairy project, which was $50.2 million to actually do is the first state-of-the-art dairy project that they have in Angola that will be in 4 different sites. If you look at the northern Côte d'Ivoire, I'm speaking to you from Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, where the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone project was presented and supported, which is for $247 million. That project will allow the northern part of Côte d'Ivoire to have infrastructure that will allow it to have a production or processing and value addition to cereal crops and also other commodities there, and therefore have more competitive value chains. If you take Togo, for example, one of the projects that was discussed is agreed on is a $77 million aquaculture project, which was in Togo. For rice, everybody knows that rice, if you're a Sierra Leonean and you're not eating rice, that's a problem. And one of the projects is a paddy agro-processing project for Sierra Leone that will allow on them to process and add value to rice. Sierra Leone imports a lot of rice. It doesn't make any sense because they have the capacity to produce and process rice. That project is for $337 million. And in Côte d'Ivoire, I want to really applaud the efforts, the leadership of President Alassane Ouattara and his determination to make sure that he drives a structural transformation of the agricultural sector and produce more food. So the Prime Minister Achi has been the one who actually led this work into the boardrooms, and it is called structural transformation of the agricultural sector of Côte d'Ivoire. It's a $4 billion investment that will cover cocoa sector, that will cover other commodities in a way in terms of food production for Côte d'Ivoire. As you know, Côte d'Ivoire accounts for maybe almost half of all of the cocoa produced in the world. So this is going to help them to raise productivity of cocoa, as well as also raise food production. So all that just to say that, as Alan Ebobose was saying about infrastructure, we also see significant amount of interest in the area of agriculture. If you don't eat food and you don't have a healthy population, you can't go far.
Thank you for that, Dr. Deshan. Just one thing before you go on the point you made about the $1 billion plan by the African Development Bank to support African countries on food production in the aftermath of the Russian-Ukraine crisis. Chinedu Asadu from the Associated Press is keen to know how soon and what are the expected gains to production levels?
Well, we are currently discussing with all of our partners. I have been doing that for the last 2 days, nights, morning. So it's something that we must have at. And we expect that we'll be able to put this together very, very quickly. Look, we have a platform that is called Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. It's a platform that is supported by the African Development Bank. That particular platform has helped to transform wheat production in Sudan. We provided Sudan with 65,000 metric tons of seed of heat tolerant. Wheat is grown in temperate environment, but here are heat tolerant wheat varieties that we provided them. Just to give him an idea of what that means, if you take an aircraft, Airbus 380, that aircraft Airbus 380, the passengers you have in it, the cargo you have in it, and the fuel you have in it is 98.4 metric tons. So when I say 65,000 metric tons of seed, that gives you an idea of at least 666 of those A380 Airbus lined up. That's the level we give them. What happened was that they were able to produce more than 1.4 million metric tons of wheat. Today, Sudan has reduced its wheat imports, a dependency by 50% in just 2 seasons. We did the same also for Ethiopia. In the lowlands of Ethiopia, we provided them 45,000 metric tons of heat-tolerant wheat varieties, which has allowed them to produce also roughly about another 1.1 million metric tons of wheat, and reduce their imports by 50%. So we have that platform that can actually help African countries to deal with the immediate shocks of the impact on the wheat price. But not only on wheat, we're going to do that also for maize, because take the case of Ukraine. Ukraine today supplies 31%. Its total export to Africa is $4 billion last year. 31% of that is actually maize. And so we're going to find that maize prices are going to be affected. Therefore, we are also going to be rolling out this particular program with what we call water efficient maize, which is drought tolerant maize that will allow us to reach millions of farmers. So in terms of timing, I expect that we'll be able to roll this out as soon as I discuss that with our board of directors. I get formal approval for it, but I can tell you we are not sleeping, because we cannot let Africa have a food crisis. And the last thing I just want to say is that when the COVID-19 situation hit, we were not ready. Africa really was not ready. We didn't have PPPs, we didn't have testing kits, we didn't have very good medical care. But on agriculture, to deal with this, we are fully ready. We have the platforms, we have the connection of global R&D centers with national and regional R&D centers, and we have this platform called Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation of the bank that is actually helping to transform things very fast. So I know there's something that we can deploy and avert an imminent food crisis situation and also inflation. So I expect to call a meeting very soon of the ministers of finance and ministers of agriculture across Africa to roll out that plan. As soon as we finish it, I expect we'll have that plan within a week.
Thank you for that, Dr. Deshina. Mr. President, thank you so much for that. Let me go now for Boisson Omofaye's question from Arise News. What were the key issues or challenges that were highlighted by investors and project managers during the 3-day boardroom deals? And this is why I was calling on you, SD Senior Director Chinelo, to field that question. Chinelo, please.
Thank you very much, Solomon. And the issues that went around when we had a feel of the boardrooms, we had 43 boardroom deals in total. And what we found out very clearly was the clear interest to invest on the continent. And what a lot of the issues which had to do with who were their partners in the investors. The investors wanted to know who they wanted to partner with. The project sponsors were very clear in the presentation of their deals, and lots of questions were asked. And what the platform provided across the boardrooms was an interactive opportunity for both everyone who was needed in a deal to be able to respond accordingly. The issue of data, information, and how to access them came up quite a lot across, and there was a clear provision on the pathway for that. We also had to deal with people who wanted to know how the political crisis across the African continents could be dealt with. And with what is going on across the world, you deal with what is on your plate and the best way possible. We had a gas deal in West Africa that went on despite the fact that there had been a change in power. So the comfort that we provided across on the AIF platform came to that. Look, we didn't promise that there would be no issues. What we promised was that whatever issue, be it political risk, be it data analysis, be it information, be it economic intelligence, and be it a clear coalescing of the strength of the founding partners to go behind the deals in the boardroom, those ones were ready and available to the investors. So that was the gamut of what went on the past 3 days. Thank you very much, sir.
I see a question here by Kenneth Igbomo. So I would like to get more information on the range of scope of women-led projects. I would also like to know more about the capital market related deals. Who wants to take that on?
One of the examples of a transaction here in South Africa that we've brought through and been working with the AFDB on is an oncology hospital, where some of the leaders in that transaction are women-led. So it's an example of something in the healthcare sector, a specialist hospital to focus on cancer-related illness, And so that's, one example of female-led projects that's, we've been involved in as part of the boardroom.
Thank you. Chinelo?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is something that we're very passionate about in terms of women-led deals. I think it was in 2019 that we set up the Women as Investment Champions and started the conversation that led to many of the deals in the boardroom today. We had about 9 of deals, worth nearly $5 billion. And it ranged from a $4.5 billion East Africa refinery deal to a $2 million, $4 million essential care product. And what we saw was they were also at various stages of development from those that went already needing just straight capital injection, and those who wanted funds for feasibility studies. And I was happy that the interest generated by investors, especially the institutional investors and those that invested in their own personal capacity because of the strength of the passion of the women-led deals that we had curated. So this is ongoing. And what we see is that various women deals move from one status to the other. Those that we find today in the pre-feasibility study, by November, they should be in their own independent boardrooms or raising capital elsewhere. So it's something we're particularly proud of and happy that it came on in this Women's Month. I was happy that President Adesina, who's always been fully supportive of women initiatives, was in nearly all the boardrooms concerning women, and he threw his weight behind all of that. So we are very, he keeps saying that once the woman is sorted, the whole continent is sorted. So this is what we are continuing to pursue and stop treating women as though they belonged at the bottom rung of the ladder in investments. So it's something that you need to keep a close watch on because this is going places. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to that, one of the, as Chinelo said, I moved around several of the boardrooms, but one in which I made sure I was in literally all of them was the women-led or women-owned businesses. Because I really believe that, we need to be investing a lot more, everybody, in women businesses, because when, as I said, when women win, Africa wins. One of the projects that was very exciting was an impact fund for creative industry. It was actually led by a woman, and her name was Roberta Anand, if I recall, and they are essentially a women-owned company. 75% of it is all managed by women. And this creative industry, women are leading in this industry. That industry is one that could add easily $25 billion to Africa's GDP and probably create another 20 million jobs. So very, very important. And one of the things that I find so exciting about it is they want to set up a fashion design school. They also want to set up an incubation facility that they used to take fashion designers from when you find them, then to when you are invested in them to accelerate their work, and also then to have equity investments in them. It's a very, very fascinating framework that they had. And for me, the most exciting part of that particular work on this women-led business for impact fund for creative industries is the establishment, the planned establishment of what they call a textile zone. It's basically a textile to take cotton to textile to garment. And they want to set up this zone to be able to do that, a textile pack, which is phenomenal. And so I think that this is really very, very exciting. And as Chinelo also said, there were a whole range of other businesses of women in various stages that are looking for technical assistance support. And we were very, very strongly supportive of those. In all of them, all I saw was whether it is, we have some businesses there that were looking at cosmetics, right? Shea butter in Uganda, if I recall. There was another one looking at textile from Nigeria. another one looking at leather from Nigeria, and another one looking, I think, at dried fruits from Sierra Leone. So there are a whole range of things, but we agree that we must invest a lot more in businesses of women. And I was very delighted that all the businesses that were on that particular platform by women businesses receive investor interest. And we should do more of that.
Good. My thanks to you, Mr. President, on two fronts. First of all, for that elaborate answer, but also for stepping in when my line dropped. And I've always said, you've got another quality you don't exploit so much of. For being a broadcaster, you could sustain a discussion on air very well. Thank you so much for that. There is a question here from Ndamu Sandu, who says, I want to find out whether there were deals on transboundary projects in Southern Africa. Mr. Tadase, would you want to fill that? Look, because I know from the Trade and Development Bank, you deal with this kind of projects. Mr. Tadase.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It was not a boardroom deal, but there is a very exciting trans-boundary project that is gathering momentum. It's been on the drawing plans of the region for quite some time. It's a green energy project that involves a resource that sits in between two countries. I'm being a bit guarded because it's early stages, and I don't want to say too much before the stakeholders have closed the circle on the matter. But it's a very large project. 5,000 megawatts is part of the picture here. So maybe I'll leave it at that.
Okay, very well. And we've got Kenneth. Before I go to Kenneth, Lukman Koulibaly, your hand has been up. Do you still have another question? Lukman from Reuters.
Vous avez été enthousiaste à annoncer.
You were enthusiastic in announcing the Lagos-Abidjan corridor project passing through Cotonou and Lomé. Now, will such a project take into account the security aspect? Because if people can circulate, move easily, terrorists can also move easily using the same routes.
Let me call on Mr. Bobise too. Mr. Bobise.
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. Again, we are not particularly involved in the project at this stage because the project is still early stage, as Solomon Kwena, VP Solomon Kwena mentioned. But indeed, one of the conditions for bankability of a project is to make sure that you can address all the risk, including security risk. And so in the project design, I think we will make sure that that security risk is properly addressed, allocated to the parties which are the best able to manage them. Because as project sponsors and lenders and other stakeholders, you want to make sure that you put all the risk on the table and then you see how you can address them. So we will not, if we get to be involved in the project at the proper stage, we would join the other partners in the project to make sure that if there is a remaining security risk, that risk could be addressed, properly allocated, mitigated. That's the way you actually to do those type of project finance deals. Now, if the deal is not done through a project, a PPP transaction, that's a choice that the government will make. Maybe Solomon Kwena already know whether the option of PPP would be taken, at least for some part of it. Then you may have different type of arrangement, but I can tell you that for a PPP deal, the risk will be properly allocated. First of all, identified, and any residual risk will be properly allocated, mitigated, or covered.
Yeah, I think I'm sure I'll let my Vice President Solomon come in after me just a minute. But I think one of the question is really talking about the issue of insecurity and if that will affect that project. One of the things that we noticed on that project is that they're actually doing this to world-class standard on security across that whole corridor. In terms of surveillance systems all across that particular corridor. So there'll be systems all across to be able to monitor that fully. The second thing that we were told in that boardroom was the fact that all the countries actually, if you look at where those countries passed through, Those corridor areas have been very, very safe corridors, very, very peaceful countries within that, which is very, very important. But also to the point that Alain Bobise was saying about the public-private partnership. I think, Solomon, we were told something about the countries that were there are the ones for which, in fact, there was an assessment done by the World Bank in terms of their PPP readiness, that all those countries from Cote d'Ivoire to Ghana to Togo to Benin and Nigeria actually are the ones that are pretty high up in terms of readiness index for PPP. So we really think that there ought to be a PPP to be done for many of these sectors. But I'll let the Vice President chip in.
President Adesina, you've actually answered it all. So I was going to indicate that the project intends to leverage smart systems, of which surveillance is a key part. And if I recall correctly, part of your intervention was that that surveillance is very important because most of our traders who will be trading along that economic corridor are actually going to be women. So definitely, surveillance is a key part, and everything else you said about the 5 countries not only being politically stable over a long period of time, but in terms of the PPP readiness commitment, really from the top, definitely, those were some of the points made. And in addition, the ECOWAS Commission itself is developing a regional PPP framework, also for the West African region itself. So that's going to reinforce the PPP opportunities, on the whole corridor.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. We'll be wrapping up this very shortly. But I can see, Mohan, you've got a point to add on to what Tadesse said there in regard to that question about the South African transboundary projects. You want to just come in on that briefly?
Sure, thank you. I mean, just adding on as another example in the water sector is that South Africa is a water scarce country, and hence one of the projects we funded is a project to bring fresh water from the Lesotho highlands through to the Johannesburg area. In dollar terms, it was roughly a $1 billion project. It has been financed now. The DBSA put the equivalent of about $300 million of long tenor debt into the transaction. But that's an example of a cross-boundary project that's happening. Hopefully, some of the projects that we would like to bring in include transmission grids to interconnect the Southern African power pool. A lot of them are in the feasibility study phase, which I know the AFDB is funding some of those feasibility studies. The DBSA is also funding some of those. Hopefully they can come through to financing as an example. The other big area, big project that we'd really like to be able to solve for is what's called the North-South Rail and Road Corridor, which starts from the port of Durban in South Africa and goes all the way through to the DRC, and then will connect through to the port of Dar es Salaam. And I think the challenge has been to get projects there that are ready for financing, but that's certainly of critical importance to the countries in Southern Africa and hence to the DBSA.
Yeah, if I could just add something to that point, especially for energy, for what Mohan was saying. We have a project there which is for $3.2 billion, which is an AE Inga project, which is an Inga power project, Inga Africa project, the DRC Congo. Now that is going to, it brings together a consortium, a Spanish consortium with the Thra Gorge from China and others to develop hydropower for 11,000 megawatts. Now, that is very, very important for the Central Africa area in terms of access to electricity, but also for South Africa, because South Africa, remember, the DRC is in the SADC area. And so that is going to be for offtake agreement from South Africa is 2,500 megawatts of that. So that gives you an idea of the kind of regional dimension of that project that we want to see it done, which is $3.2 billion, and it generated a lot of interest. So I think there's no doubt that there are already a lot of projects that we've done in the Southern Africa region that are regional on infrastructure, especially. You look at the Kazungula Bridge that is linking Zambia to the other part, Mozambique, and all the others, all the way to Botswana and all that. You look at the Nakala corridor, which is the major corridor that is there that we have actually financed there. Or you look at the Walvis Bay port, which is in Namibia, which is pretty much almost doubled the port capacity of Namibia and helping regional trade in the SADC area. So we'll continue to do more of those areas between ourselves, Africa 50, and also DVSA and others and Trade and Development Bank in these areas.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. President. Just one last question here, which I think is for you, Senior Director Chinelo, and this is from Kenneth Igbomo here from CNBC Africa, who says he would like to get more information on the range and scope of the women-led projects. I think maybe you've already tackled that. And we'd also like to know more about capital market-related deals.
I think we already talked about...
That's when my line dropped, isn't it?
Yes, we already talked about that and I answered it all. And I just want to add that, and we still, the conversation continues beyond the this press conference. We have our website ready, and we would also like people to send in their requests, the projects that they are looking for us to address, so that we will continue to curate ahead of the event in November this year for a full physical in-person Market Days event. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
so much.
let me say something about that question. You know, the integration that we're going to have in Africa. We talk often a lot about integration with physical infrastructure. Well, you need financial market integration as well. So, you know, we already have projects that are doing that from the African Development Bank, linking stock exchanges all the way from Johannesburg to Nairobi, to Abidjan, to Lagos, up to Casablanca, right, and also to Cairo, and those are major stock exchanges. So financial market integration is important. One of the things that was discussed and I agreed on is the bank, African Development Bank, put forward for board discussion what's called Africa Domestic Bond Fund. And the Africa Domestic Bond Fund was for $100 million. Essentially, is to be able to attract bond investors into local currency financing in Africa. It is listed on the stock exchange. And so the idea was to raise an additional $100 million for that, so that we can lend in local currencies to Africa. So that's the kind of thing, one of those things that actually got a lot of traction there. So we need to make sure that we also decouple a lot of financing from Forex exchange rate risk. And so that is very, very important. And maybe the Vice President Solomon may want to say a word on that as well.
VP Pena.
Thank you very much, President Adesina. You actually mentioned the Africa Domestic Bond Fund, which I was going to mention. The other one relates to Admasu Tades, who has been a bit understated. It's the green shares, which ultimately would be listed, which will be listed as well. It's a very great innovation, especially ahead of COP27. It's a mechanism, really for multilateral development institutions, or DFIs, to specifically attract funding from global sources, to build out better with green, and quality infrastructure in Africa. So, Admasu, I'm speaking for you because you're not selling yourself. But thank you.
No, he actually he said it earlier, but
no, he said it earlier,
yeah,
but very muted. Yeah, very
you
muted.
helped him to carry it across the line. Well done. We're excited about it too.
Admas, is that fair on you? You want to put in a defense?
No, he actually doesn't have to defend anything. We are just excited about his green shares.
Excellent. Look, I think we'll do one thing right now. We've come to the end of our press conference, but I think it's important that out of all the many things we've spoken, all of them very, very nice things, there must be one thing you would want Africa to wake up to tomorrow morning. So we'll go around and ask you what's that one thing that Africa should wake up to tomorrow morning, because when you look at the time, it's nighttime. And I know when people wake up tomorrow morning, they want to know what was going on in the Africa Investment Forum boardroom sessions. So we'll start with you, Chairman of the Africa Investment Forum and President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina. What's the one thing Africa should wake up to tomorrow morning?
Well, believe in Africa.
Believe in Africa. I get your point. Very succinct. I won't say more than that. Mohan, Vivekendra.
Yeah, I think in a similar point, a lot of the capabilities we need are here. The capital is available in the continent. It's about us creating the opportunities for that capital to flow, because once that happens, it's going to create investment opportunities, jobs, and sustained economic growth.
Thank you. Admasu Tedese.
Integrate Africa more vigorously.
Alain Abubise.
Well, along the line of President Adesina, I think a lot of people are willing to bet on Africa. Bet on Africa, you'll be rewarded.
And Taiwo Adeniji. Taiwo, we lost Taiwo again. Okay, I will go to Dennis Daniel.
I would say let's believe in ourselves. We have the solutions. If we work together, we will achieve our objectives.
Thank you so much for that. And Ambrose Fayole did send apologies here to leave, and therefore we took note of that apology from him. That brings us to the end of this. I want to hand over to Senior Director Chinelo, who's got the closing remarks. But for me, I would like to say thank you so much to the panelists here and all the members of the press for staying with us. And I hope you've seen from the range of things you've heard here, there is a big story, a success story to be written about Africa. Thank you. Chinelo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Solomon. And just in closing, I'd like to thank everyone. And just not to waste too much time, because Mr. President already went round with the thank yous for the relevant people. One of the project sponsors on our boardroom, in one of the gas projects, he had something to say that struck all of us. He would like to do the right thing for people, for planet, for profit. Thank you very much. Let's work with that and get back to making sure that these investment interests will have are converted to actual investments. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you.
Thank you.